All right. Welcome back to the next episode of Destination Success. Guys, I'm ecstatic today. We're back live. It's been a little while. You know that I was running for office, so I kind of had to take a little hiatus from doing the podcast. I was out every day knocking doors, kissing babies, shaking hands, trying to get the votes. But now we're back, and I'm really excited about our new way we're going to do this. We have I've decided that Mike and I are still going to do this together, but we're going to have some episodes where we invite people from my national friends that I have in business, and then some local business owners to come and join us to give some knowledge, some tidbits, some just lessons learned. So my first guest, I'm extremely excited to have him on board. He's the VP of Operations of Apex. He's the meme lord at Closer Memes. He's also, there it is. He's an Amazon best-selling author, and he's a dad. He's a husband, and he's just an all-around awesome dude. My brother, Drew B. Wilson.
What is up, Sherm? Man, I'm so friggin' excited to be here, brother. We have been working to get this thing fired up, and we're here, we're live, and I'm ultimately excited, man, because we've been connected for a couple of years. We've had the pleasure of watching each other's journey in business, in entrepreneurship, launching best-selling books, going through this process together. And I'm really just truly grateful to have the time to be here with you and the opportunity to share some lessons with your listeners, man, because I know you go way above and beyond to pour into them and to the community around you, especially when you were running for office, man, really just doing good for the people in your circle. And I'm excited to be here and help wherever I can, man. So thank you again for the invite.
Ah, man, I'm grateful for you, brother. It's funny that we kind of had that same journey with the book and everything, and it was like one of those things. I was kicking it around, and you happened just to start to do yours, and you're like, look, you got to get done, and you got to get it done by this date. And I didn't get it done by that date, but I got it done, and it was pretty cool. But just like today, we sat down. I have this beautiful new podcast software, and there was some kind of like mic jam with it that I couldn't hear, but Truby was like, I'm not gonna be able to do this, which would have probably recorded and made a lot of noise. And here I am on a step stool taking my green screen down so that I had all my stuff, and we're right back to where we started. As Druby said, don't fix something that's not broken. And here I am on my phone listening to you trying to do this. So I appreciate it. It's been a crazy morning to get this together. But why don't you give the listeners a little bit of background about yourself? Where you were, what you're doing, whatever you'd like to let everybody know.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. So I kind of share my story like this, right? I was an underachiever growing up. I was kind of that kid that got into selling reefer and skateboarding and BMX and kind of really just went down a path that I wasn't super proud of. And then when I met my now wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, I was trying to get my life together, right? Looking for a more legitimate job, trying to get out of the reefer game, trying to go and do something with myself so that I could be a good man, so that I could be a good husband. Ultimately down the line we got there, right? That's a whole story in itself. But
Sure.
I've always in the entrepreneurial spirit been someone who's had the hustle muscle. I've always gone out and done whatever I had to do to create survival in my life. And then, when we got together, our relationships future, I've sold pretty much everything there is from, like I said, I sold reefer, I've sold insurance, I've sold furniture, consulting, marketing. I've done roofing, contracting, all kind of different stuff that I've worked on and helped sell over the years to the tune of more than 8 figures, especially in online sales, which I know is a totally different beast from some people that have a brick and mortar. But I have brick and mortar experience too. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales and furniture and tobacco and all sorts of different products and services. And so for me, what I really like to talk about is it's not just about success in business. We all know how to make money's cool, but we know that if we go and do something for so much time, we're going to get paid X amount of dollars, and that's kind of the way it works. But time is our most valuable resource. So for me, it's not just about making money. Creating success or happiness, whatever you want to call it, your version of it, is about living a life where I can feel good about who I am every single day and know that I've done my part to create greatness around me, right? Because I'm trying to be a good person, plain and simple. I'm trying to be a good husband, trying to be a good dad, trying to be a good human inside my community, a good leader. And as long as I'm doing that every day, man, then that's all success is to me. And that's what I want to try to share with people in my community. And then, the listener today is that whatever your version of success is, it's 100% out there and waiting for you. You just have to get clear on what it is and then start deciding if you're willing to do what it takes to make that real.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I just turned 51 2 weeks ago, and I always take at least a long weekend in January. It started about 10 or 12 years ago when I had worked 3 or 4 years and couldn't just never took a vacation. I worked every day, 7 days a week for 3 or 4 years, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going away. It's cold. It's getting ready to snow. Let's head to Florida. And that's the time I take to like kind of like sit back and like contemplate on where I'm at, what I'm doing, and what I'm going. And the hardest lesson I had to learn in this journey for almost 30 years now is the being grateful for you and what you have versus chasing the ever loving dollar bill. You know what I mean? Like everybody says that, money's the root of all evil. Well, no, it's not. It just amplifies who you already are. Money's not going to change you. Money's just going to take that magnifying glass and make you even more of either you're grateful or you're not, or you're the asshole or whatever you are. You hate yourself or you love yourself, or it only gives you more opportunity to be the person you already are. And what happens is when you hit that, like you have that money, whatever that amount is, and it's different for every single person, then you go, shit, this sucks. Like you look around and you're like, I thought everything was supposed to be great once I hit that $1 million mark or whatever again, whatever that number is, and then you realize shit, and I had that like come to fruition the one time where I was sitting around like, I keep having this problem with these employees and I keep saying it's everybody else's fault than mine. And that's when I had to realize it was about me. And that's when I started taking my journey as well. So yeah, it's always about that, man. It's awesome. We have similar backgrounds, which I think the listeners should know. We all have similar backgrounds. Nobody is this perfect person that you see at the top of the iceberg when 70 or 90% of the iceberg's under the water. Like we had to do all that other work to get to that shiny tip top, and we're all people struggling, through something and things, to get to where we want to be. And every day is a change. Every day you should be working on you. So yeah, man, that's awesome, brother.
Thank you.
So one of the things we always try to discuss and help people with, because everybody's journey is different. The one question I like to ask is, what's one of the greatest lessons that you have learned so far as you're in this journey? And that's easy and hard probably all at the same time, but you go ahead and let me know what your greatest lesson is.
Man, I've thought about this question a lot because it is something that comes up, right? When you're kind of on the spot, you meet a new young entrepreneur or business owners are like, well, what's like the one thing? What's the one thing? And when I really sit back and reflect on it, the greatest lesson I was ever given was to understand you will never have the answer for every question that you're asked, but a wise man knows where to go looking for it. That was
awesome,
really
man.
impactful for me because you got to think about like everybody expects you to know everything, and kind of people get down on themselves because they don't know everything, right? It's like, oh, I don't know. You're not less than because you don't know. You don't know
Right.
what you don't know. There's so much to know. It's impossible, but you can wire yourself and operate in such a way that when you don't know the answer to a question, you start thinking about where you can find that answer. And right now we're blessed because we can go to Google and pull up 99.9% of things. But
and shit now with chat or whatever, GPT AI, I mean, it's even easier now. I mean, imagine that shit when we were in school. We would have never been in school.
Well, and that's the thing, right? That's the thing, because the power of information and how quickly you can access it now is one of the superpowers of the young generation. The super successful entrepreneur and business owner right now understands how to get information and how to implement it with extreme speed and efficiency. Yeah. And that's really like, if you come, because I learned that lesson probably 10, 15 years ago now, right? And it was just like the burgeoning age of the internet where we could Google stuff, but it didn't have it all on there. you can literally get anything and everything you need right now. Whatever problem you're facing, it's out there. And to me, you can go to Google, but I also look at it as having mentors, because it's
Right.
not just about business. And you can't go to Google and say, hey, how do I be a great husband?
Yeah.
It's going to tell you a lot of different things, but it's not
Sure.
necessarily, So when I think about it that way, I look at, hey, where am I learning and what am I learning from who? Who
Right.
are the mentors in my life, and what kind of life are they living? What kind of example are they setting? Because they may be super successful in business and make a lot of money, but I may know them personally and know that they're extremely unhappy.
Right.
They
Right.
don't have a good relationship, and that's the stuff that I want. So I have to be very careful about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that gets into the rule of, you surrounding yourself by, the people and the greater people that you want to be. And you got to be careful because that group, what I've found, one of the many lessons I've learned is that group changes. That group
Yes.
is evolving. What you thought and who you thought you wanted to be a year ago is going to be different than tomorrow. And once you get into that group and you see, like, you only saw a little bit because you were on the outside looking in. Then once you're in that group and you see how that group works, you're like, these fuckers ain't no different than me. They're just as fucked up as I am. You know what I mean? So here you are trying to be a little bit better. You know what I mean? And then you get into this group you think is better, and you're like, shit. This whole time I thought this is where I wanted to be, and it's not. These are we're all the same clowns. Like, we got to get into a different circus. You know what I mean? Like, and that again, remember that, like, what you see on the outside is the same shit people see about you on the outside. Until they get in to know you, they only know the 1/15th of really who you are until you sit down and you break that bread, or you smoke that cigar, or have some wine, or you're out to dinner with your families, or you're doing something with the kids at school. Like, until you get to see their authentic them, you're never really going to know who they are in public, because most people don't really put their authentic person out there 100% of the time. So yeah,
they don't. But you know what? I think they should. And I think that's something that we have kind of fallen victim to with social media and the way that things are kind of skewed these days, because we kind of put the highlight reel online. And I know
sure.
I'm guilty of it, right? Like, I don't put all of my dirty secrets online, but I really make an effort to be the same person online as I am offline, right?
Yeah.
Because I think brand congruence is a really big part of creating something that people can get behind, right? When we're talking to small business owners and entrepreneurs, right? The listener of your show, these people have brands. They have business brands and they have personal brands. And
Sure.
what happens is their business brand might have some sort of mission or goal, but their personal brand is very, very divisive or toxic. And so something they say online ends up costing them their business because there's no congruence there. And all of a sudden, the people who were big advocates for the business are like, well, I can't support somebody who has this mission but acts in this way. And so that's, to me, huge.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And, that was the number one question that I got when people started to find out that I was running for office. They were like, so, they're going to dig all your shit up. And I go, it's already out there. I'm like, I talk about it all the time. Like,
tell me what they find that I forgot about. Right?
You let me know if they can find something new that in my 50-year-old memory, I forgot. But I'm pretty open and honest. And like, yeah, but what about your business? And I go, I'm already doing business with the people that should be voting for me, that will be voting for me, that support me. They already knew who I am as a person. That's not going to change because I'm running for office. Like, oh, that shit changes everybody. I'm like, okay, well, let's see how it works. And I was the same person from day one that I was the last day on November 8th when we voted. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't change. And I told everybody, I'm not going to change. This is who I need to be, who I am, and who I want to represent our community as. And if there's any kind of litmus test, that was it. I promise you, because when you knock on 9,000 doors, you're like standing there naked. You don't even get a robe, because they are ready to rip into you and ask you the craziest questions, because that this is where we're at now. So, but yeah,
but think about the value of that, right? Like, think about, when you come up against hard times in your life in the future, or issues, or just weird little things that everybody faces, right? Think about those conversations and how powerful they're going to be for your future decision making.
Sure.
And this same thing can be said for sales and entrepreneurship and business owners, right? Like, every time you go into a conversation or a transaction, you're presenting a deal, you're making your pitch,
Right.
whatever, you're having these same kinds of conversations. You're learning, you're educating yourself, you're getting a deeper understanding of people, what they need, why they need it, when they need it. And that makes
Absolutely.
you better. But so many people are afraid to go out and knock those doors or have those conversations, right? They stay to themselves. They don't want to talk to people. And again, I know because I'm kind of an introvert too, but like the power of going out and forcing yourself to get out and have conversations and get out of your comfort zone, it creates an exponential return on you and your business. So if we can recommend anything, I'm not saying you got to go run for office, but like get out there and meet some people, have some conversations.
Absolutely. And you know, when I tell everybody, there's always some local things, you know, start out small. Take a small step. If you're not a person that's good with groups of people, take a small step. You know, you have to do something. If you have a child, then the child doing something, that's sports, or it's maybe it's they're in the math club, or they're taking a language or dancing classes or swimming lessons or whatever. Because now you have a common denominator that everybody can talk about is your children. You know, start out small with that, because that's something you're passionate about, you know, and so are they. And you're gonna start out a conversation and start introducing yourself to the other parents. Like, hey, how you doing? My name is blah blah blah, and you know, I see you've been here a couple times. How do you like the class? Like, you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be crazy, but that's how you start becoming. That's how it starts being easier to approach people, because that's really all it is. People that are really good at talking or sales or communicating is that they can quickly find that little nugget that we can attach each other to quickly, you know. And you know, I smoke cigars, and that's a huge brotherhood and sisterhood of people, and it doesn't matter, that covers all ages, races, cultures. It doesn't matter. So when you're sitting down smoking a cigar, you know, you have that common denominator right off the bat, so you can just say, hi, how you doing? You know what I mean? Like, and it's, you know, it's easy, but you have to find that, whether it's church or it's, you know, you do something for work, or you do something, you know, fun, like you ride bikes, or you swim, you know, like that's how you start, where there's there are a little bit areas a little more comfortable. You know, you and I have been doing this a long time. Knocking that they told me, I asked like 14 different people that ran or politicians, and I said, what's the hardest part about this? And they said, knocking doors. So why is knocking doors? He goes, because you have no idea what these people are going to ask you. And I go, okay, well, I do that shit every day. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, if you can deal with a bride's mother about to happen a wedding, you can deal with anybody, like, you know, because it's the craziest stressful situation between the bride, the bride's mother, and the family, like leading up to the week. I was like, if I could deal with that, I could deal with any question that came to me. And it really, I think there's only one real question that like kind of took me for a loop, but you know, and I can't remember it now, but I remember one. I was like, wow, where did that come from? But I mean, I knocked on 9,000 doors. If I could only remember one, you know, it wasn't that bad. But I loved it. I loved talking to the people. I loved engaging in the people. But that comes back to us and what we do. Like, we're passionate about the things we take on. This isn't just like, oh, maybe this is a good job for $45,722. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, I want our community to be better, and I feel that I'm the one that's going to help us do it. And
I imagine that it would cost you more than the job would pay you to get like, for what you put into doing that, man, it costs you significantly more than just the salary. Like, that's what people think. Oh, well, they're getting in for no, that's not how this works. Like, that's
right. Yeah, I mean, that was the salary. It's $45,738. You know, yeah. I was like, you know, I'm taking a pay cut, right? Like, I make more than 45 grand a year. You know, I get it's part time, but still, like, you know, I got 2 side hustles to make that much money. You know what I mean? Come on, like, I'm doing this because I think this is the right thing to do. I'm a person in the community. A lot of people know me, and I think we need to change, and that's why I'm doing it. But yeah. So let's get into your book, man, because I want to make sure, because, you know, I got my copy first day out. So I just want to make sure that I'm not just a person. I'm not a person that just talks about it. I'm in it. So you know, why don't you, you know, maybe just give us a little tidbit to lead into, you know, getting them interested and getting them to grab some books from you.
I appreciate that, man. So my book is titled Crushing the Day: A Simple Guide to Success in Business and Life Through Service to Others. Because when I wrote it and launched it 3 years ago now, which is bananas to think about, like 3 years ago, I was at a point in my life where I would have called it the apex, right? It's funny because like we're in this apex mastermind. I was at the apex of my life. Weird how the world kind of circles everything together. But I
Sure.
was at that point where I had made a lot of massive transitions in my life, right? I had walked away from a 6-year career in insurance, moved my family across the country from Ohio to Texas,
That was
gotten this
crazy,
new
dude.
job, man. Like I went all in, right? I made that jump, and a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners will remember that moment in their life where they said, you know what? I'm going all in on me. And so I wrote this book to really sit back and recap like, what are the things that I experienced? What are the lessons that I had to have? Like, what were the moments and the memories that really solidified these for me? And so in the book, I just talk about growing up, what I went through, my childhood, my teenage years, getting into sales and entrepreneurship, and kind of how I found this path that I'm on. And then ultimately, what lessons I had to learn along the way, right? Understanding punctuality, understanding being my authentic self online, offline, making sure that I'm always serving my client, because ultimately in sales, it's not a good thing to sell every person that has a credit card and a pulse. Like, not all clients are good clients. We have to learn that lesson the hard way a lot of times on that journey. And so inside the book, I kind of just recapped all of my life up to that point, the big lessons that I had taken away. And then I kind of shrunk them down to say, hey, if you just take some of this and implement it in your life, I'm really hopeful that you will find some success and you will find things that will improve. And after having sold a little over 1,000 some copies here in the last couple of years, we just launched the audiobook on Audible here a couple weeks ago. So that went to bestseller again, which was fun to see. But I've gotten dozens and dozens and dozens of messages from people that are like, hey, I read your book. It's crazy how similar our story is. It's almost like we were doing the same thing. Heck, we maybe even crossed paths at one of these skate parks. Like, you never know. But creating that connection with the community, creating that level of know, like, and trust, it's really helped me build my brand and attract more people who are like, hey, I read your book. I really appreciate it. I did this, this, and this, and these are the changes that have happened. And this is how I'm going to continue that momentum to changing my life. And that's, for me, man, I think one of my biggest joys is being able to show up and just live my life on a daily basis, do the things I want to do, don't do the things I don't want to do, for the most part, right? Like, we all have someone we answer to somewhere. But I live my life kind of on my own terms. I do what I want to do, go where I want to go, have the things I want to have. And that's my version of success. And so that's what's cool, is getting to point that book out there for people, hand it off in the airport, give it to somebody at an event or a speaking engagement, and then let them come back sometime later and say, hey, man, you really helped me. I appreciate that. I loved your story. It was awesome. It really made me understand that the things I've been through weren't so bad. And so now I get to share that with the next person. And that's really what Crushing the Day is all about. Just knowing, hey, I woke up, I did all the hard work, I did the things I'm supposed to do, I took care of my priorities, and I still made a little time to have fun and live my life, be with the
Yeah.
people that I care about, right? And that's really what the whole thing is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, Drury. I tell them all the time. I'm like, like, especially, like, I'm constantly coaching my staff to replace all my duties. I mean, my end goal is in the next few years that I'm just really waking up and doing exactly what I want to do every day. Not that
Yep.
that doesn't happen a lot now, but it's not as much as I'd like it to happen, and I want it to be. But you have to schedule your day every day. You can't wait. Like, the biggest thing that pisses me off when I see shit on Facebook is, thank God it's Friday. And I'm like, you wasted 5 days of your life to celebrate 2 days. Like, you're wasting, 5/6 of your life.
All right, sure. So I
Like,
got the formula. I got this for them. I'm gonna hurt their feelings a little bit, but I'm gonna give them some game here. You ready for this?
give
All
it
right,
to him,
folks.
brother. Give it to
Here's what
him.
I want you to think about. If you look back at your year in 2022, right? We're recording this in 23. So look back at 2022 and think about how much money you made as a total. What was your total income? Divide that by 2,000. Here's why. Because if you work a typical 40-hour per week job and you take 2 weeks off to go on vacation and do your own thing, that's 50 weeks a year at 40 hours. It's about 2,000 hours, assuming you don't take sick days or anything else, right? So if you take your income last year and you divide it by 2,000, that's what your hourly rate is. That's what you're worth per hour. So I'm going to give people a second to stop and do some math and think about this, but I'm going to give you a basic, right? If you made 100 grand last year, you're worth $50 an hour. Some people are like, that's awesome. Some people are like, no, man, that's bullshit. Because if I said, hey, man, you only have 24 hours left to live, and I need one of those hours, here's $50. What are you going to tell me?
Go F yourself.
You're going to tell me a whole bunch of different 4-letter expletives, and you're going to tell me to kick rocks, right? Because we understand that our time is worth significantly more than whatever that dollar amount is that we just calculated. But here's the problem. Most people don't treat their time as though it is their most valuable asset. They're like, oh, I'll get to that later. I'm going to go and do, I'm going to watch this Netflix show. I'm going to goof off. I'm going to stare at my phone. They're not intentional about how they use their time. And the scary thing is nobody is 100% guaranteed anything. You could walk out the door today and get hit by a bus. I pray that doesn't happen, but like it could.
I could have fell down taking a green screen and burnt my skull on the desk.
We were joking about it. You could have fell down and broke your neck on that.
I was like, well, at least he'll be there to dial 911 for me. He doesn't know where I live, but he can at least let him know I'm hurting.
Yeah, I wish we'd recorded that part because that would have been a hilarious outtake. But that's the thing, man. Most people don't treat their time with intention, and they don't really respect the value of it. And so they give it away freely. They aren't intentional, and they constantly say, oh, I don't have time, instead of understanding that is you make the time for the things that are important in your life.
Yeah. I say it a lot. I tell people, I was like, so what you're going to tell me is that if your daughter was sick or son was sick and you had to stay home or you had to do whatever it was, you're going to tell me you don't have time for that? And they like, look, well, of course I do. Well, wait a minute. You have time for that. You have time for it. You can make time for anything you want to do. 7 years ago, I opened up a restaurant with a guy. I said I'd never do it. And this guy, he browbeat me until I said yes. I worked at the catering company from 7:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon, drove 45 minutes to the bar, took over for the manager that started at 5 and worked till 1 o'clock every night. I did that for 4 months because I wanted to do it, because it was something I want. You could do whatever you want to do. I still made time for my girlfriend at the time, who's now my fiance. I still made time for my kid, my children, my friends. I still made time. Like you have to learn to be better at scheduling your time for what you need to do. Like there's 24 hours in a day. And as Arnold Schwarzenegger would say, you sleep 6 and you got 18 to do everything else. He goes, I know, you tell me I need 8. Just sleep faster. That's all. I listen to that like it is. I listen to it all the time because I'm like, he's like, he took acting classes, English classes, he worked construction, and it still slept. He did a ton. He's like, you have plenty of time to do things. And what we get caught up with in the minutia of this, we're entitled and we don't have to do things. And, I know you and I know everybody else, because we're all on the same page, is that you get into it what you put, you get out of it what you put into it. And if you don't put anything into it, you're not going to get anything out of it. Understand that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, creating the same process, doing the same shit over and over again, and expecting it to come out differently. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. You have to have deliberate change, a deliberate process, and you have to keep enough. I'm not here today because I did the same process over and over and over again. I changed 4,000 times, maybe 5,000. I don't know, because you just do it. And if it works great, keep doing it that way. And then when it doesn't work great, you tweak it 1-2 degrees. Then you tweak it 1-2 degrees until you get to the desired result. It does nothing. It's like cooking. Not everything comes out the same way every time. You have to add a little bit of sugar, maybe a little bit more salt, a little more whatever. It's the same thing in life. You can't expect to get up every morning at 7:30, grab your cup of coffee, have your toast, kiss your wife, take your dog out, go to work, come back at 4:30, have dinner, sleep, watch whatever shows you'd watch till 9 o'clock, go to bed, and go, I'm going to be a millionaire in 3 years. Like, that's not how it works.
I wish it did.
No shit.
It'd be a lot more fun that way. Sit around
You
and do
know,
nothing and get paid.
yeah. Well, we would be the first ones to be there because we know how it's only that little extra work at that point. But so that's awesome, man. I really appreciate it. So what's I didn't ask you this, but I'm going to ask you now because I like putting people on the hot seat. So what's coming up, man? What's something new? What's something we should be on the lookout for?
I am super excited. We talked about my book. I actually have 2 more books in the work. I have one right now that's I'm really excited about.
That's awesome, brother.
It'll be out probably by the end of February. So we're recording
Nice.
this mid-Feb, so it should be here done in the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome, man.
It's something that kind of just came to me out of nowhere. It's a little pet project, and I'm excited to not only have accomplished it, but once I've done it, tell the story about how it all came together, because I think it's going to be really impactful.
That's
but
awesome.
other than that, man, on a more personal note, my goal for the year is to travel, spend time more with my family. Last year, I had a whole lot of speaking gigs and traveled and did a lot of stuff. And my wife was blessed enough to come with me. But every time we'd FaceTime my son, he kind of had that look like, man, screw you guys. You're at the beach in Cabo. You're in Vegas. You're here. You're there. Like, and he's only 7. So, like, he doesn't necessarily know. But I said, you know what, guy? Like, I'm going to bring you with us this year. So we're doing a lot more family travel, really spending some time and making those memories, because that's the whole point of entrepreneurship, right? Getting to live life on our terms and do things the way we want to do them. And so that's what we're doing, brother.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's awesome, man. And I think it's 9 times out of 10, all of our goals is just to kind of spend a little more time on us and our family than in the business. And it's a monster, man. It's a monster you have to fight every day because, unlike most people, we love what we do. So, like you have to break. It's not like, oh God, here we go. I got to get up. I got to talk to Jeremy today. What the hell? I was excited as shit this morning. I'm like, I was so excited that I forgot what time it was, and I was ready way too early. But nonetheless, but yeah, like it's like you get into it and you love it and you got to kind of like, it's one of those things like it starts working so much, it takes so much momentum to like kind of like lean back and say, hey, I got to do a little more me, and let some other people in there. And it's, it's tough, man. It took me a long time to let go of the steering wheel. I white knuckled that shit forever. You know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, I was hanging on, flapping. Like I've
been lucky enough to learn from guys like you, right? So that's like I said, my lesson is learn from mentors. I listen, I talk to everybody. I treat everyone as though they can teach me something, because whether it's something I want to do or don't do, there's a lesson there, man. And that's really what I encourage the listeners to do, is make sure you tune in, make sure you're listening to these stories and paying attention to what Sherm and Mike have going on, because this is the stuff that will save you tons and tons of time. Money we can make, we know that, but if you listen to these lessons and you avoid going down that path, the time that you will save and compress to get things faster, it'll change the game for you.
Absolutely. And here's the number one piece of advice I give everyone. Ask. You're afraid to come up to someone and ask them a question. Bullshit. I'm going to tell you right now that as soon as you come up and say hi and ask a question, you're going to have to like turn the valve off, because 9 times out of 10, people like us that have been around and you ask a question that, it hits a button with us, we're ready to just Niagara Falls you with the information, and you're like, I thought this was going to be difficult. Here you just changed my whole business. I'm telling you, all you have to do is ask. A lesson that I learned, I was sitting at the cigar lounge right across from one of my great friends. And he was a CEO of a mortgage company that helped small businesses give money in the community. He wasn't a traditional bank. And we smoked cigars for about 18 months together. And we never once talked about what he did. I had been trying to get rid of my silent partners for almost a year. And I had some shit on my credit and some things I had to work out. And I was doing it. But he could have helped me all the way back then. Not when I was almost at the end fixing all that shit. And I looked at myself and I literally wanted to punch myself in the face, because I was like, he was right across from me and we never had a conversation of like, hey, what do you do? Because it came up one day accidentally about like somebody was mentioning about a loan or business lending or something. And I'm like, you give out business loans? And he's like, yeah, that's what we do. We do it for small community, business just like you. Like, have you ever thought? I'm like, oh man, and it's, and I tell this story because don't do it. Ask the questions. Go up
Yeah.
and ask somebody. Yeah, you can't like inbox me at 2 in the afternoon or 8 o'clock in the morning, but and expect an answer in 30 seconds. Like we're busy. But I promise you, if you come authentically, like, hey, I'm having this issue, or hey, I'd like to ask you a question about this, I'm gonna say, hey, meet me here. We'll have a cigar, we'll have a drink, and let's sit down and talk about it. And I'll give you time,
Here,
and
pro
so will
tip though.
most.
Let me help these folks up because I'm going to share something that's very, very important and been a valuable lesson. And I know we got to finish this because I know you got stuff to do and I got to go.
Yeah,
On a
so
call
do you.
here in
You
a
got to
second
go too. Yeah.
But here's a very important lesson for the listener. Before you decide to go and ask someone if you can pick their brain or just like unload your questions on them, find something that you can do that brings them value. And so here's a couple quick things that you can do. You could order Sherm's book on Amazon and read his book and say, hey, man, I read your book and I really appreciated this tidbit. I did have an additional question about it, though. And if he reads that and he sees that you took some time to actually put some effort and energy into solving the problem yourself, he will be 10 times more likely to respond to you and answer your question than if you just show up in his inbox and be like, yo, can I pick your brain for an hour? Because let me promise you, a $5 coffee or even a $25 cigar, as wonderful as that is not worth the hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hours that he has poured into. Well, maybe not that many hours. You're not that old, but like that much time that he has poured into himself and education. You know what I mean? Like this stuff is important, guys. Just understand that people want to share with you. Guys like Sherm and myself, we want to give that to you. But there are ways to show up with a value first mentality. And it can be as easy as ordering someone's book, commenting on some of their posts, or engaging with their content online first, because that's the stuff that brings us value that you don't understand is super, super important to us, because all of those little things add up to the big stuff for us. But you doing that little extra bit can make or break the difference between getting an answer or not.
Absolutely, and I agree 100%. And unfortunately, as humble as I am, I never plug that shit. But he's right, because you're making us feel like we're already doing something, and it's the giver's game. That's where he's going at. Like the better you give to me, I'm going to have to, like, you give me $2, I'm going to have to repay you with 10. Then you give me 15, I'm going to have to do 40. Like that's how the giver games work. So yes. So right before we got to go, because he's got to go, he's important, and I only got an hour of his time, and we're on almost 40 minutes, and he's got like 2 minutes before his next appointment. I just want to plug his book. Actually, I'm going to plug him. It's www.connectwithdruby.com, and all his stuff's on there. We didn't get to his meme thing because we really gave you a lot of great stuff today, but he's got his memes. These things are funny as hell, and it's great for helping close, and it's great for keeping in contact with people. But again, Druby, again, that's his book. That's, if you go on Amazon, you can see it. It's really easy. Yo, brother, I'm going to see you in June because I'm going to be down for the Masterline. Got my not necessarily front row tickets, but I got pretty close to the front row. But we're going to be there hanging out in Texas and having a good time. I appreciate your time, man. You are the man. I appreciate you helping me out. I appreciate you helping the listeners out. And that we'll definitely catch up in Texas. I'm sorry I turned on my screen. So I got hit the.
I appreciate you. I love you. I'll see you soon, man. It's time. We're going to do some cool stuff.
We are. I appreciate it. And that's it.